We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It's Thursday, moving through the week. It's been a busy one with the primary and all that sort of stuff. And of course, we have our regular guest on, Old Soul. And I always like it when Old Soul comes after big things have happened because she always has some interesting insights. First of all, Old Soul, thanks for joining us again. I appreciate it very much.
Hey, yeah, thanks. It's always fun. I look forward to Wednesdays now.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like it's always Wednesday. I just want you to know you're not limited to Wednesday. I do this every day, so anytime you want to come on, it could be Wednesday, it could be Monday. It doesn't matter. But Wednesdays, if that works out for you, I'm just glad we can have you here on the program. N- I wanted to ask you, um, just to keep people up to date. We know that Old Soul brings in women from other states who are in a situation where they need an abortion. She opens up the doors for them to stay with her. And you had one that had been there for an extended time. She went through kind of a rough time, and it sounds like that person has finally went back home, right?
Yeah, she did. She went back home. And surprisingly, so sometimes, they'll text me here and there. But most of the time, I don't take it personally because I really do feel like they just want to put it behind them and move on.
Right, right.
But she does, like, she texts me like every day since she's been gone. And she's just like, I hope I'm not bothering you. You're like, no, text me whenever. And then we got someone else as well. So
So you have somebody new today,
just that, just that quick.
and it sounds like it isn't quite as problematic as the first one because your daughter's out with her tonight. It's got to be nice to have a 24-year-old
Yeah,
daughter to help out.
my daughter, she does axe throwing and then she throws the little ninja stars and stuff. Because she used to be in like an axe league that we have out here.
Mhm.
But yeah, she was just like, hey, if you want to like let some frustration and some steam out and like, get away from my mom for a little bit, you can come with us axe throwing. And she went with them to throw axes. So
You got this little 24-year-old girl, and she has some things she does on the side as opposed to school and work and all that stuff. Most girls would, maybe go shopping or that sort of thing. And your daughter throws axes. I find that incredibly interesting.
yeah. And don't forget the ninja stars too.
No,
She's
couldn't forget
good.
that.
She's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was practicing the knife throwing too at one point, but I haven't checked in on her to see how that's going either. It's pretty crazy.
It's got to be entertaining to have her around. It's just not like most
Yeah.
24-year-old girls.
Yeah, because sometimes, especially like with me, I always tell her like, "Hey, don't put me on the couch. You're not a therapist right now. You're my daughter." And so she'll say, "Let's go axe throwing. Let's go do this or that." And when we're hanging out, we'll just naturally have those conversations. And sometimes when we have women or girls here who are a little bit more bottled up and don't want to talk as much, that's a way for her to get them open up as well as like, get them out of the house, maybe do something different and let a conversation flow in that way. So,
So
yeah.
so so when you have these women that come stay with you, it seems like you're kind of double teaming them there. You've got Old Soul playing mom, cooking dinner, taking care of them,
Hmm.
taking care of them when they're sensitive at certain
Yeah.
times. And then you got your daughter who is psychoanalyzing them, whether they want it or not. She finds a way in
Hmm.
their heads and she's able to work with them there. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I guess, I never looked at it like that, but, I guess we are a good little duo team.
Yeah, you are. You absolutely are. Now, you said you got an email that you wanted to address, one that we were either read on the air here or one that you got, and it's kind of pointed at you. So, have at it.
One that you read, and um, I don't want to say it angered me, but it rubbed me the wrong way. And I've heard it a couple of times. That's kind of why I wanted to speak on it, just in case anybody else had those same thoughts.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think like a way to say it without just, sounding aggressive. So it was
Uh,
the
uh,
person who said they were like getting their passports and getting ready to go and all that other kind of stuff, right?
that kind of annoyed
I
me too.
instantly thought about, yeah, okay. I instantly thought about Maddie. And a lot of times when I see like some of this, just how they target people, I do think about her. She's a mother, she's raising her family. But one thing she said when she was on your show was she would, like, if Trump was to get reelected and they're trying to start with this Project 2025 stuff, she would make sure her family is safe first, and then she would come back and fight. And so
Right,
I feel like if it's someone like Maddie who's being targeted just for being alive,
right.
and she's willing to stay here and fight for this country, I don't understand why other people feel like, oh, I can just get my passport and flee. Because for me, I'm an American when it sucks and it's difficult, like it is right now. And then I'm also an American when things are going okay. And then I think about those people that came before us that they didn't have to, but they chose to stay here and fight and push for change and make things better, not just for themselves, but for the country as a whole. So
Right.
I take it kind of personal when I hear people say, I'm just going to get my passport and dip. And
Right.
then I'm thinking like, well, where do you plan on going? I've been hearing Canada like, well, we don't want America and their racism and their guns coming here. There's travel advisories for certain states in Canada
Right.
because they are hostile towards LGBTQ or women's rights. They don't want us invading their countries. So where are you going to go? And
Well,
then when you get there, then what? And it's kind of like you see like right now this summer, there's going to be 8 million children hungry.
right.
So just think about that on a national, in certain, you know what I mean? Because certain states didn't want to feed them. So think about that on a national stage. If Trump takes over, the Republicans take over, you're comfortable going to another state and just leaving children and people here on their own to just fend for themselves.
Right.
Like what makes you think, like, how do you feel okay with doing that or
Well, that
even thinking that?
yeah,
It's,
that kind of annoyed
I
me
don't get
too.
that.
That kind of annoyed me too. It's akin to saying, I know I'm going to get in a fight, so I'm going to reserve a hospital room and a doctor be ready because I know I'm getting my ass kicked. I just don't understand that whole mindset. Yeah, and I've heard other people come to me about that too and say, "Oh, listen, what are you going to do? What are your extra plans?" I don't have any fucking extra plans. I want to see if you follow my mindset. I really honestly believe that Donald Trump cannot win in November. I'm not even sure he can handle what's going on now, where he will even be the nominee. But the Republicans in general, as I've said before, Roe v. Wade, that's the killer right there. We saw it kill them in 2022. It's going to kill them
Yeah.
in 2024. And then you've got the investigations and the indictments and the ultimate convictions. If you were to pick out a party that had
Mhm.
everything possibly going against them, it still wouldn't be as bad as what the Republicans have now. So the idea of being confident that in November that the Democrats are going to win, I don't have any question in my mind. And when I hear somebody saying, "Well, I better get ready to get out of here," it's my attitude that they're listening to what's in the media, and for whatever reason, they're choosing to only listen and believe the negative things. And there's enough of that out there. And I just get annoyed by people who get fooled by that shit. You're smarter than that.
Yeah, I don't think he can win either. And I mean, on top of all of the, I call it like instead of infighting, I call it Republican cannibalism because they're eating each other alive at this point. But on top of
Definitely.
that, we've had a couple of, between him, Haley, DeSantis, we've had exit polls right now from Ohio, was it Iowa and New Hampshire.
Right.
So we already know that half of the Republican Party is not with Trump. Independents are definitely not with Trump. Women are not with Trump. And then in New Hampshire, you see like educated people, people with common sense, they are definitely not with Trump. You have people showing up like, I don't like Haley, but I'm gonna vote for her because I don't like Trump. We have so much proof, so much evidence that the only reason people think Trump has so much support is because he tells them that.
Right.
That's
Right.
the only
Exactly.
thing that you have to go off of. The polls are not right. They don't add up like those national polls. They don't add up with just ground roots polls. When you talk to people, you see how they feel, and you see what they're going through. I don't think he has a chance at all. Even if I did think he has a chance, I still wouldn't just leave. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And then I kind of felt offended too with that, because I felt like, so if I'm standing here toe to toe with Maddie, me as a Black woman with a target on my back, her as trans with a target on her back, and we can fight and we can do the hard work and we can push forward, and you're sitting on your beach or whatever country you're in, when we're done with that hard work, oh no, you don't get to come back. You need to
Right.
stay where you went to. So I was
Right.
kind of like feeling that too. So even the worst case scenario, I don't think to leave. I don't think to just roll over for Donald Trump, the Republican Party, or just racist. Not when we come from, like I said before, marching, burning bras. Like, our history is to push forward and to fight back, especially for inequality. And I don't understand that mindset of, I'm just going to take off. I don't get that. I'm not angry about it, but it rubbed me the wrong way.
Well, and I've talked about this before, and this is one of the reasons I have so much respect for the likes of Martin Luther King and
Mm-hmm.
the activists back then. Like I've said before, if you were in the 60s and an African American, you were in a minority who had few rights then. I mean, far fewer than we have now.
Mm-hmm.
If there was ever a group of people that said, why would I fight against this? There's no hope. It would have been African Americans and Martin Luther King at that time. But instead, even in spite of the fact that they had no hope, they still fought and they continued to fight, and they did it
Yeah.
nonviolently. That's what,
Mm-hmm.
that's the epitome of courage. And we don't need people that are not courageous anymore. I mean, if you're wondering about the November election, all you had to do was look at some stats that came out of the New Hampshire election, the primary election. 75% of independents voted for Nikki Haley. Now, in a general election, whether you're Democrat or Republican, but especially Republican, you need some fucking independents to even come close to winning. And the
Yep.
Republican Party are just,
Yep.
they're not collecting up independents because of this whole Roe v. Wade and the other bullshit. That alone should be enough to tell you that the
Yeah. And not
Republicans
only that,
can't
but you
win.
have Trump on camera. Yeah. Not only that, but you have Trump on camera saying that he doesn't need them.
Right.
He's literally saying that. That's an ad. You don't
The,
need us? All right.
all you have to do is run Donald Trump clips, and that would be ad enough to get anybody elected. I just don't, I get people every day coming to me really worried or upset about what's going to happen. And I said, listen, you can only control so much. Don't worry about
Mhm.
shit you can't control. Just work the hardest you can
Yeah.
to get the right result, and we'll get there. We've got every advantage on our side, but still, people want to look at this fatalistically, like, oh my. I swear to God, people just love living in drama and stress because they put it on themselves constantly.
Yeah, I have the stats for an Axios poll when they asked about the economy. And what they did was ask the questions for the individual person, because it seems like people are starting to see that when people take national polls, they're mimicking what they hear
Right.
about how the economy is doing, and it's not about them personally. So Axios did a poll, and 63% of Americans said that they feel good or great about their own personal economy. 77% said they're happy where they are financially, like and also where they live, and that does include renters.
Right.
83% said if they lost their job tomorrow, they are confident or more than confident that they would be able to find another job easily.
Right.
When you ask these people nationally, they don't think that the economy is doing good nationally, but for themselves personally, you're looking at like 77, 83%. People are confident. They feel like their own personal situation is good. They feel like inflation is going down for them. But when you ask them nationally, oh no, I don't think the economy is doing so good. And the only reason they feel like that is because every single day it's like drilled into their head that the economy was better under Trump and it's bad now. But when you ask them, okay, well, how are you doing? Oh, I'm good. You know what I mean? So it doesn't add up. But people tend to be pretty selfish and they kind of look at themselves when they're voting. And a lot of people are going to vote for Biden if they feel like Biden is better for them. They're not going to vote for Trump because they feel like Trump is better for everybody else. They're going to feel like I'm doing good, my situation is good, so this is what I'm going to go for. And when I was seeing like 83% of people saying, oh, they're confident they can find another job, that's because they know the unemployment rate is low. They know that. They know that, Biden is invested in infrastructure. So there's all these different kind of projects that they can go on. So when he's promoting the middle class and he's promoting labor and he's promoting unions, which he got endorsed by the way,
UAW.
they
Yeah.
see that, they know that they can feel that positivity within themselves. But when you ask them what it is on a national level, it's a different story. And that's just because people keep telling them that is bad. So even though they don't feel that is bad, people telling them that is bad, they just start to regurgitate that. And so I think when you read polls, read the question, read what they're asking these people, and it's completely different than what they're telling you the polls said. Like, read the polls for yourself, read the questions for yourself, and you can see how it's skewed. And then read the whole poll. Don't, they typically pick a couple of different pieces of the poll and put that out there. Read the whole poll, and it'll be a completely different situation that might calm people down a little bit.
Yeah, we can blame the media a lot for this. They go to the dramatic because they want to suck in people to watch their outlet. But you make a good point. Read the whole poll. And I saw somebody talking about this today. And this is a big factor in these polls, but you never hear them announce it typically. These polls can say whatever they want. I'll be honest with you. The polls told us that Donald Trump would win New Hampshire by 20 to 30 points. He won by 11. So the polls really weren't on top of it then. And they're trying to make excuses as to why. Secondly, in those same polls, people are typically asked, well, what happens if Donald Trump is convicted of a crime? And that throws the polls totally the
Yep.
opposite way. And what's the likelihood Donald Trump's going to get
Right.
prosecuted and convicted? Pretty good in Washington, D.C. at the very least, maybe in the Manhattan district too. So,
Yeah.
so it, if the world's a perfect place, Donald Trump gets off free. But we know Donald Trump is fucked at every turn, so
Mhm.
that's just not the case. It's not a realistic explanation of what we can expect come November 2024. But the media won't tell you that. And like I say, I blame the media a lot from the moment Donald Trump came into office, the reason he was elected president, to all the bullshit we've gone through in the last 7 years. A large part of it hangs on the shoulders of the media because they're shit
Yeah.
stirrers. See a little shit going around, so they stir that shit up to create some excitement.
And they're still doing the same thing. That hasn't changed. When I read the Axios poll, and I'm like, okay, so I haven't heard the media say anything about how people feel personally about the economy, how they're doing. It's all, what do you think about how everybody else is doing? I don't even know why that would be a question in a poll.
Yeah.
How do you feel how it's going nationally? Like, when you just really break it down, how people do feel about the economy, their chances of stability, and their future. They actually do feel pretty good about that. They're feeling confident and more confident. And when you're looking at 77% and higher, those are just not being shown to people. It's such a skewed image of what reality is. It's pretty unfortunate that they are doing that to the American people because it does put them in a defeatist attitude and a mindset, like the person that sent you the email. So I understand why she may feel that way or think that way, and I'm not angry or frustrated. I think I'm just more frustrated for the fact that she has those type of feelings and ideas put into her in the first place.
I'm not angry at her or even frustrated with her. I'm just a little disappointed that some people get sucked in by the bullshit and then they act as if it's real.
Still, after
And
all we've seen and known, it's
right,
still sucking people in. Yeah.
right, exactly. It's it's strange how the media can really dictate. We're a much different society than we were in the 60s. We had real journalism telling us the facts. We get to make choices and decisions based on what we know. Now we've got
Mhm.
people telling us what we should think, and if we don't think like that, then they scare us to make sure we think that way. Um, I
Yeah.
think we're going to see a turnaround in a lot of the messaging between now and November. We're starting to see it a little bit more. It's not all positive for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is going through some things. I said this on a TikTok. In the next 10 days, this is not going to be a good person to be if you're Donald Trump. I mean, we're going to start the arguments for the 14th Amendment with the Supreme Court. That's coming up within a week or so. We're going to find out whether the
Yeah.
appellate court is going to give them absolute immunity, and they are not. Um, we've got Judge Engeron with the Letitia James thing going to come back with a final decision,
Hmm.
and frankly, he's just going to take all of Donald Trump's shit. And then on top of it, we have the Eugene Carroll thing. And they're going to determine amount there too. He's going to be drained of all his money and all his power. He's not going to have
Hold on,
immunity.
let me make a list of all his legal stuff he got coming up.
Well, that's the point. He's going to have a bad
You
10
just rattled
days.
off like 5 court cases.
Right. And that's in the week to 10 days where we're going to see some activity with it. So it's, I
Hmm.
don't understand why people are so positive, whether you're Republican or Democrat. Everything that's going on is working against Donald Trump. I mean, there was a guy, I can't remember when it was, Howard something. He was one of the leading candidates for the president in the primary, and he won a primary, and he was so excited about it. He screamed, and it went a little weird, a little girly kind of scream.
Oh,
He
I
basically
remember that.
he basically was kicked out of the primaries. Nobody voted for him again because he's got a weird scream. Yet we've got all this shit, and people
Hmm.
still think he has power. And you're right. It's Donald Trump keeps telling you that he's got this, and this. And for whatever reason, some people believe it and they shouldn't. He's done nothing but lie to you for 7 years. He's been wrong every time. You've got to be stupid to keep believing it.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason that things have gone as far as they have is people don't pay attention until they have to. So before in off cycles or people wasn't really paying attention unless it was something important like
Right.
keeping reproductive freedom on the ballot, that type of thing. But other than that, people don't follow politics like we do.
No, true.
They're cool. An election is coming up. Now we have to pay attention. So this is the time when people actually start to pay attention. They start to see some of the stuff he's saying. They start to hear a lot of the crap that he's saying. And he is not at his best with the slurring and the sweating and the Nikki Haley, Nikki Haley, Nikki Haley. Like, you know what I mean? So people who were not paying attention before, they're paying attention now. And what they're seeing, they don't like it.
No. Well, when he made that mistake of mixing up Nancy Pelosi with Nikki Haley, doing it 4 or 5 times, not even catching it, uh,
Yeah.
Elise Stefanik came out and was trying to throw a curveball here and basically saying, well, he meant to do that, and it reminds me
Yeah.
of when a guy's walking down the street trying to be all cool and shit, John Travolta strutting his way down the street, but he trips over a crack. What's the first thing people do when they trip over a
Hmm.
crack? They start running like, yeah, I just decided to fucking jog now. And 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 the thing about it is what
Donald
the
Trump, jog.
no, he's not running, but the thing is that this has happened a couple times now, but I really sense he's starting to deteriorate now. The pressure's getting to him. The reality that he's not winning, he's losing everything. I feel like that deterioration is going to get exponentially worse every day.
I knew that he was going to get worse. I'm actually kind of, well, I guess I can't be surprised how rapid it's happening
Yeah,
because I do know, based on his niece's book, his father lived with dementia for 7 years before he passed away.
really.
And so I just thought that he would just kind of slowly or gradually fade, is my way of saying it nicely. But I guess it shouldn't be surprising because if you're already in that type of state of mind and then you have pressure on top of pressure on top of pressure on top of pressure, it's going to make you decline much more quickly. And so I'm assuming that's why he's declining at such a rapid rate because it's so, for me, if he was anyone else, and then sometimes I do catch myself feeling like how cruel it is for the people around him and the Republican Party who knows better to just prop him up like that.
Right. That's pretty
It's
much
such
what
a
they're
cruel
doing.
thing to do. It's so cruel, you know, and you can clearly see it. They're excusing it away, but it just seems so cruel to prop him up like that.
Well, and eventually they
It's
won't be
just
able to do it
I don't
anymore. They won't be able to do it anymore
yeah.
because it'll be too frequent and too bad and too out there in front of the public. Now, Nikki Haley, um, she lost in Iowa, third place, second place in New Hampshire. She has really no hopes of winning any further primary, but she's going to stick in
Mhm.
there. And people say, why would she stick in there if she keeps losing? Because her strategy isn't winning primaries. Her strategy is holding on long enough to wait till Donald Trump implodes or something bad happens, and then she is the
Yeah.
nominee by default. I really believe that's what she's doing. I mean, it's a smart
Mhm.
move, actually. It's a calculated risk, but given what we're seeing, it seems like a good risk.
I think she's playing a long game too when it comes to that. I don't feel either way about her dropping out or staying in. I just, I don't. But it's like, if you can stay in and drive Trump crazy and make him spend more money, go for
Well, and that's the thing.
it.
Did you notice after he won the New Hampshire primary, when he was
Yeah.
giving speech afterwards, he wasn't jubilant, he wasn't excited. That motherfucker was
Mhm.
pissed. He was pissed for two reasons: because he didn't win as easily as he thought he would, and she didn't bail. He doesn't like the
Mhm.
fact that she's sticking in the
Yeah.
race, and because it's just another stumbling block for him. Even if she doesn't win another primary, it cost him money, it cost him time, and it just fucks with his head. He's used to people, cowing away from him because he's so powerful. And Nikki's saying, fuck it. I'm going to stick in. And that is going to give
Yeah.
Donald Trump fits.
Not only is she doing it, but she's a minority
Hmm.
and she's a woman. So,
God
it's
forbid.
like, oh, I could make all these grown men fall down and they all come behind me and don't get me started on Tim Scott, but
Well, we're going to
they
talk
can all
about,
do this, but this woman is, yeah, this woman over here is like, I'm not having it. You know what I mean? So I think that's rubbing him the wrong way. It's a financial cost to him. The numbers were not enough to run her off, or it wasn't enough to embarrass her the way that he thought he would. I'm not sure if he knew what the numbers were at that time about how good Joe Biden did. Um, but I think there was a lot going on up there at that moment where he could barely barely contain himself.
one of the things that concerned me, like I say, I don't think Donald Trump will be the nominee. And I feel it even stronger now after I'm seeing what I'm seeing. But a lot of what bothers me more than
Mhm.
anything, there are some Democrats out there that go, Nikki doesn't look that bad. And next to Donald Trump, that's true. She doesn't look that bad. But Nikki is no friend to women or liberals or anything. She is a fucking mess on top
Yeah.
of it. I mean, she supported Donald Trump from the beginning. She said she'd pardon him if she was president. But compared to
Mhm.
Donald, she looks like she's normal. And people are starting to believe she's normal. And I
Mhm.
think some Democrats will go, well, I'd rather have Nikki than Donald Trump. No, you don't want either one of these motherfuckers. But she's doing the right thing and portraying herself as the reasonable mind. She's not. but some people are buying into it.
Yeah. I think the Joker would look normal standing next to Donald Trump, but that's just me.
True.
I think that Nikki Haley right now, she she appears to be normal because she hasn't had to make a definitive stand on anything. She gets to flip-flop whether she wants a 6-week ban, whether she wants to compromise on 15 weeks, whether she wants to, cut Social Security, whether she wants to raise the limit. It just depends on who she's talking to, what her stance is. I feel like she's able to get away with that right now because Trump sucks all of the oxygen out of the room. But
True.
let him fall off, and now all of a sudden she's number one. All of this crap that's been going under the radar with her that people haven't been noticing or haven't put too much thought into, all of that's going to be brought to the forefront. And I don't think it's going to be any better for her than it would for Donald Trump. I don't really care one way or the other about her. She doesn't have Republican support, even though she may have independents. So it's like one without the other.
It's not
It's
enough.
nothing. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I I don't worry about her at all. I
Now,
don't like her. I don't worry about her, but if she get on Trump nerves, then that's a good thing.
yeah, since you brought him up and I know you're a big fan, let's talk about Tim Scott. He was standing behind Donald Trump when Donald Trump was giving a speech, and he was called out by Donald Trump because, oddly enough, Tim Scott is a senator mainly because of Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley appointed him when she was governor, but then he has the audacity to support Donald Trump against Nikki Haley, and Donald Trump kind of gave him shit about it. And God, what a kiss ass! I mean, this guy can't look. He's the only black man I've ever seen that can't be cool, other than Urkel. He can't. I'm cooler than Tim Scott, and I'm an old white guy.
I have a funny story about Tim Scott.
Okay.
But before I say that, when Trump stands on stage and he tells that story about the snake,
Yeah.
that story is indicative of the Republican Party. You knew
Yeah.
I was a snake before you let me in, period.
Right.
I don't expect for him or anybody else to have loyalty to anybody in that party, especially when Trump is running around talking about Alphonse Capone and that other mafia guy that rolled on everybody. There's no honor there. There's no loyalty there. You're only useful to them until you're not any longer. And Nikki Haley is no longer useful to him, so she's disposable.
Right.
And I wasn't surprised that he sided with Trump over her. I just wasn't expecting for him to be, I wasn't expecting his lips to be that firm onto Trump's butt. I wasn't expecting that. He seemed like he liked the taste of Trump's butt and he wanted to kiss it again. I
Well,
just wasn't expecting
and
any of
that's
that.
and that's crazy given that we know he wears a diaper and he's frequently wallowing in his own excrement.
Mhm.
That's the other mafia guy you were talking about was Sammy the Bull Gravano, the underboss to John
There you
Gotti
go.
back in the day.
Yes.
And
The king of the snitches.
right, well, see
Yes, the
that.
king of the snitches. And
Well, see,
Trump is like, oh, yes, see, listen to him. He endorsed me. What?
listen to him. He was ensconced in the mafia. He is a psycho serial killer. He's killed multiple people.
Mhm.
Um, and he snitched on
Yeah.
John Gotti, and that's that's who Donald Trump wants to endorse him. Wow, that's fucking crazy.
When he started talking about Sammy the Bull, it made me think Jack Smith was looking at Trump and the superseding indictments twofold.
Right,
One, to make it uncomplicated, get Trump out of the way first, and then he could move on. The second would be to get his conviction with Trump and then sit Trump down and say, hey, you're going to jail regardless. Do you want to be comfortable in jail? Do you want to do less time in jail? However you want to play this, but if you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. Start telling me about Marjorie Taylor Greene's part in this. Start telling me about this. When did you hear about this? Who put the bomb on the side of the, you know what I mean? Kind of like
right.
play Trump in that way to get additional information. So I feel like when he started mentioning Sammy the Bull, I'm like, once he's convicted, Jack Smith is going to have a heart-to-heart conversation with him, and it's going to be some information exchanged. And I think it's twofold why he's going first for the prosecution with Trump.
Donald would roll on Barron if it helped him. Donald would roll on anybody. I just don't know if Jack Smith
In a
needs
minute.
that. I don't know if Jack Smith needs it because, the fact that he hasn't indicted the sitting members of Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene, um, the Thomas's wife, and Roger Stone. The reason I don't think he hasn't indicted them yet, and it's not because he doesn't have the evidence, because there's a lot of evidence against them. I think he's just laying back on that to try to get the Donald Trump thing done because that's time sensitive. He doesn't want anything else to confuse it, give Donald Trump
Yeah.
any opportunity to pull somebody else in. But I think we're going to see all those indictments ultimately. I don't know if it'll be after the case starts in March or after it ends in June. I don't know when it's going to come, but Marjorie Taylor Greene is not getting free. And I think they know a lot about her history and her involvement, as well as all the other sitting members of Congress.
I think once Trump starts talking, there won't even really be a need for additional trials. I think people will just start pleading guilty. When you
Yeah.
look at like Frank Lucas and even Sammy the Bull, when they started rolling over on people were not going to trial. These are like the top dogs, the inside, they knew all of it.
Right.
So once they start rolling over, oh, you make my job easier. We don't even have to go to trial at this point. People start pleading guilty and throwing themselves on the mercy of the court. I think that's a possibility because I do think that when Trump's back is up against the wall, everybody is fair game at that point.
Yeah, I think so too. And the thing is, everybody's fearful of speaking out against Donald Trump. I think once Donald Trump is actually convicted, then you'll hear people saying,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh yeah, I never liked him, never liked him." That's when they'll get
Yep.
brave, and that's when they'll start talking.
They do that now.
Yeah,
When they
yeah,
don't have to run for reelection, they can't stand them. They write books and everything.
right, right, exactly, exactly. I think that you know I don't worry about it. I hope Donald Trump has a lot of stress on his head. The only thing that concerns me about him not having stress is his mental affliction, this narcissism, because narcissists believe that they're always going to get out of
Mm.
it. They're always going to talk their way out of it. And I wonder sometimes if he feels that stress or he, in some delusional state in his mind, believes he's still got this and he's going to run the table on 91 felony charges and all the other bullshit, he'll be fine. I don't know what he's thinking right now, but the people around him have got to be very fucking nervous.
I think that he feels it because he does not sleep. Like he doesn't sleep at all.
Yeah.
He's up 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, tweet after tweet after tweet after tweet. He he's losing it. You can ask him a simple question. You could even ask him a question like, "Hey, I see you're doing great in the polls," and he will just start attacking this person or that person. It's just on his mind. He's waiting for an opportunity to spew that out because it's very difficult to contain that. So if he's not able to contain it, he's thinking about it, he's worried about it, he's stressed about it. I don't think that he's not feeling it at all because I really, at the end of the day, I think he's more insecure and cowardice than he is anything else.
Oh,
It's a very
absolutely.
complex psyche that he has.
In narcissism, the base of narcissism, the core of narcissism is incredible insecurity. They've got to constantly make themselves look good and make people believe it. I think that Donald Trump, there does come a point with narcissists where they keep trying all their strategies and none of it works. And that's when they freak out. And I think we're either at that stage or near that stage with Donald Trump because of all the things he does. He's always been kind of evasive, but now he's evasive on everything. He spins everything.
Mm-hmm.
You could ask the fucker what he had for lunch, and he'd say, "Yeah, well, Nikki Haley had for she's always spinning shit. It's like he can't keep
Yeah.
his lies straight."
He's told so many of them. I don't even think we can keep all the lies straight. I don't know how the people who count his lies, and they've got to be like not double time, like triple time and a half at work because it's so many. It's like by the time you fact check the previous lie, he done already told 10, 12 other lies on top of that. I've never seen anyone who was a habitual liar the way that he is. And it's not even, it's stuff that he doesn't even have to lie about, like, oh, we won New Hampshire 3 times already. No, you didn't. Like, why do you have to lie about that? Just say, hey, I won by triple digits tonight, and just be happy with that. But it's like everything is a lie to him. His weight is a lie to him. His money is a lie. Everything is a lie about Donald Trump.
Well, when you're giving a
I
campaign
don't get it.
speech, when you're giving a campaign speech and he decides to reference January 6th, and granted, he mixed up Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi, what's the point in a campaign speech to reference January 6th? I would think that'd be the last thing you'd want to talk about. But he needs to believe, he believes that somehow he can change people's mindset about what actually happened. And he keeps pounding on it until people believe what he says. Unfortunately for him, there's only a small faction of people that will believe everything he says. The rest of the people are just embarrassed for him because it is embarrassing the things he says and how he
Mhm.
says them.
Yeah, I don't know what's more embarrassing, Trump and his little inner circle, or the people who we know better
Yeah,
get on national television and just bend themselves into all kind of pretzels and shapes and to excuse it. To
right.
me, that's got to be more embarrassing than Trump himself doing it or his inner circle kind of excusing it. But it's like when you just look at certain people and I didn't think it got any worse than Lindsey Graham, but now I'm seeing Tim Scott and I'm just like, how embarrassing. Like, I know that's just his Rena fiance, but you got to be around her at some point. Like, how do you even look her in the face? How do you go home and look at yourself in a mirror? Like, do you have family? Or I always wonder this, do these people have family or friends when they go around them? They just don't say anything to these people? Because if I knew him personally, he came around me, I would have something to say. And so I just like, how do you face people after you do that?
Yeah.
Like I don't get that at all.
No,
It's just,
yeah, I couldn't do that for a living. Fibbing or telling an aside is one thing, but just blatantly lying and lying about your life and lying about what you believe, it's it's just fucking amazing to me. I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Old Soul is with us today. Always great to talk to her and get her insights. She's smart enough where I don't have to think as much as I normally do during the show, and I thank you for the mental vacations I get when you're here. You brought up something in the break, and I don't know as much about it, so I'm going to count on you to tell us. But it sounded absolutely ridiculous. You were talking about a bill in Florida. Go ahead, tell us about this bullshit.
yeah. SB 1740, I think that's what it is. So the plan was, what did they, what did they call it? Oh, I can't remember the name of the bill, but it was 1740. And they were raising money for Trump's legal defense. So the first thing that they were going to do, which by the way, Florida is one of these states that turned down money to feed children for the
Right,
summer,
right,
but they're going to raise $5 million to pay for Trump's legal defense. But okay. So they were going to give him 5 million up front, right?
right.
And then anything over 5 million, they would raise through the DMV. So, if you go to renew your driver's license, get your car registered, whatever, you know how sometimes when you go to pay, they ask, you know, would you like to donate $1 to St. Jude's or to cancer research or
Right.
whatever? So instead of saying that, it would ask, would you like to donate $1 to, I forget whatever the name of it, but it was that Trump's legal defense fund. But of
Right.
course, it didn't say Trump's legal defense fund. It just said whatever crafty name it was that they came up with. And
Right.
so anything additional from that would go to Trump. But he gets that 5 million up front. And I was just like, I was gonna ask you, do you think Trump knew anything about that, or is that something that they did on their own?
Well, when you're talking about Republican legislators, especially in Florida, uh, they're the ones behind
Mhm.
these fake electors and all this other stuff, and they've just done some egregious shit with abortion and all this stuff. We're not dealing with the highest level of intelligence when we're talking about state legislators. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Donald Trump threw that idea on their plate and then they ran with it. I mean, it sounds like something Donald Trump would do. I mean, how in the world do you take a bill that's going to use tax money and say, we want to help out a candidate with his legal fees? I mean, how do you sell that to them after your taxes have gone up because your governor fucked up with Mickey Mouse? I don't understand how they thought they were going to sell that to anybody and not get some pushback.
Not Mickey Mouse. Well, I
Yeah,
mean, what it is it's not about, it's about tricking people, right?
yeah,
So that's just like if, you know, we I would never say donate to the Old Souls Legal Defense Fund. I would just say, you know, donate to the city of Las Vegas, whatever, whatever. And then
right.
people would just naturally assume that it's a good cause if they don't know any better. And then they would just make that donation. So it wasn't telling the people that they were doing to Trump. It was just putting a different name on it and not telling them where the money was going to behind it. Just, would you like to donate to this particular cause? And counting on people not asking, well, hey, what's this cause? What's this for? You know what I mean? That type of stuff. So it really was about, you know, swindling the taxpayers out of their money. What do you think about DeSantis vetoing it? Actually, that was pretty. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I think that when DeSantis pulled out of the race and then he said he would
Hmm.
endorse Donald Trump, I think he has kind of a hard on for Donald Trump, and I don't think he thinks he's going to get anything out of it if Donald Trump becomes president. But he did sign that contract, so to speak, with the RNC that he would support anybody who was the candidate. So since Donald Trump is the heir apparent, given the amount of votes he has and how he's looking in the primaries, he felt compelled to do that just so he doesn't piss off the RNC. But I don't think he likes Donald Trump. I don't know how he could. He talks shit about
Yeah.
his wife. He talks shit about his height. He talks shit about his face. He talks shit about everything. I mean, I know a lot of people like Lindsey Graham can look past all that shit, but Ron DeSantis is
Hmm.
kind of a mini Donald Trump. He's a narcissist in his own right. So he's probably seething about Donald Trump, and that would be the one way to shut that down. But there's no way to justify taking taxes and giving it to some guy just because he lives in your state. This may have been Donald Trump's initial idea, but it's these crazy fucking legislators in these red states that are trying to pull anything out of their ass, whether it be fake electors or getting a slush fund for Donald Trump.
Yeah. When I saw DeSantis give his I'm suspending my campaign speech, the first thing I thought was like, you little wuss.
Yeah.
Because when people give their concession speeches, they do it in front of the people who supported them, the people that were there working for them, knocking on doors, phone banking for them. They have the respect to stand there and do it. He pre-recorded a video.
Yeah.
What a wussy thing to do. But then when he kept doing the head bod, I'm like, they made him do that. He didn't want to do it. He was forced to do it. And so I feel like because he didn't want to do it and he was forced to do it, that maybe some of his pettiness is creeping in. Or even though it was the best decision, I'm just like, why didn't he just go along with it?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I'm just, maybe he's looking at the overall picture and wondering how taxpayers are going to vote in the future if he was to allow something like that to happen.
Yeah. Fortunately, at this point, the law states in Florida he can't run for governor again. But there was always some rumors he might
Mhm.
run against Rick Scott for the Senate seat. I think Ron DeSantis' political career is all but done. I don't know where he goes. He can't draw flies. It's just not going to happen. But that concession speech he gave was reminiscent of that same speech that Donald Trump gave on January 6th. Remember, he recorded something and he basically says, "Yeah, you guys better go home. By the way, we love you."
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing. I don't think either one of them
Yeah.
wanted to do that video, but they were pressured somehow in doing it. And it just shows how close mentally Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis is. It's just that Ron has no charisma and he's a weirdo. So he had no chance. Donald Trump has a little
Yeah.
charisma. He's a weirdo, but for whatever reason, people fall in line with what he says.
I would not have expected, and people in the news were kind of making a big deal out of it, but as an avid reader, I wasn't expecting him to misquote Winston Churchill. And it's just kind of like, if you wanted to reference him at all, you could have done that. There's a whole body of work of Winston Churchill. I believe it's called The Power of Words, right?
Right.
And it's some of his greatest works, like speeches, poems, quotes from his debates. They're in this book. You could have just opened up the book, and I'm pretty sure you'd have found something to match that speech. So when the media was kind of like talking about that, I'm like, it's kind of a big deal for someone who wants to make themselves seem like they're an elite and they're educated and they're just this, strong man. I'm better than Trump because I'm educated and I'm smarter than him. I'm quicker on my feet. I can think faster than him. And then the speech was just completely fell flat, and you did it in a cowardly way. And you misquoted Winston Churchill. But anyway,
And then
I
people
wasn't
made fun of
feeling
him.
it at all. I didn't like it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he can't help but
And
being
he
made
actually
fun of.
deserved it after that. Yeah,
Yeah.
he deserved it after that. I think it's a wrap for him. I think when he's done in this role that he's currently playing, I think he should just take a back seat for a while and then try to figure out a way to bounce back. If there is a way to bounce back, maybe just end up on somebody's boards of directors or become a fundraiser or someone to that effect. I don't see him in politics moving forward. I don't see it.
I mean, politics is like being in radio or being in TV or being an entertainer. You've got to have a presence that people warm up to and like or feel comfortable with. And he just doesn't have that. I
Mhm.
mean, I'd say, well, he could get a job at Fox News, but I don't even think Fox News would want him. He's too weird. He just got these weird little glitches every time he talks, and it just doesn't play well. Now, maybe his wife Casey, could put him on her lap and put her hand up her back and be a ventriloquist for him because she speaks okay. But that's about the best that Ron DeSantis could fucking hope for.
You know what else Ron DeSantis and Trump have in common?
What's that?
They both stand weird. Like he stands kind of, it's so weird. And Trump just kind of leans forward. So I'm like, what is it with these narcissists? They don't know how to stand up. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
so weird. DeSantis stands weird. Trump stands weird. It's so weird.
I'm 63 years old and I got a lot of things going on, but at least I can stand straight. While you bring that up, I don't know that we talked about it last time. It probably happened afterwards. Remember that picture where he held his hand up and he had all the red marks on his hands, Donald Trump?
Yeah.
He
Hmm.
didn't know if they were blisters or they were scrapes or whatever. Everybody had a wild idea as to why he had those problems with his hands. Some people said, well,
Hmm.
James Carville said it's got to be syphilis. And I would love so much if it was syphilis, because then he would have a tie to Al Capone, because Al Capone died of syphilis. But, and somebody else came to me and said, well, given what his stability on his feet is, maybe he fell and scraped his hands. And
Hmm.
that seemed reasonable to me that he'd want to keep that quiet. That makes him look weak. he's not going to tell anybody. But then people said it looks more like blisters. I don't know what it is. You have any thoughts on what would cause that kind of damage to this fucking clown's? I mean, to me, because when it looked blisters, I, all I could think was a crack pipe blew up or some shit. Because I don't know what else it would be.
I don't, I personally, it looks like psoriasis to me,
Really?
regardless of what it is. Those are not hands that I want to be shaking with or without gloves. I'm not doing it. And it could be the reason why Melania didn't let him in the car with her. Like she turned and she said something to him. And in my mind, I just thought she said to him, like, I don't want you or that syphilis in this car. He just turned around and walked off.
Well, yeah,
That's what I said to myself in my head when I.
you're talking about Melania's mom's funeral, and they had that video of Melania and Barron getting in
Yeah.
one of the limos, and Donald kind of going there. And all of a sudden, he stops. You don't see what Melania does, but he stops, and he looks bewildered for a
Mhm.
moment, and then he just spins on a
Yeah.
dime and heads the other direction. Donald Trump, for a man who has
Yeah.
such little
And his
regard
hands
for
was slugging down too. Like, yeah, he pouted when he walked away.
he did, and the thing about it is it's amazing for somebody who has so little regard for women. He's sure getting his ass kicked by a lot of women these days.
Mhm.
It's
Oh yeah, because Alina Habba is finessing the heck out of Donald Trump. I'm pretty sure out of all of the attorneys, she's the one that's getting paid, and she is just screwing him completely over. And I'm like, how is he letting this woman do that to him? But just, I guess you can hate the player, but not the game. Like, Alina, get your money. Hopefully they could raise enough for you in Florida. I don't
well, if hopefully if Alina can hold on to her job, and if Alina doesn't end up going to jail, because she's doing some pretty fucked up shit in court. She's standing up and talking when she
know.
shouldn't be talking. The judge is telling her to sit down and shut up. I mean, it's interesting. She, by default, became the lead prosecutor or the lead defense attorney in the Letitia James thing because Joe Tacopino, who's a clown in his own right, said, fuck it, I had enough, I'm gone. But she's sitting there and she's
Yeah.
trying to lead this process, and she has no fucking clue what she's doing. I wouldn't give a nickel for her
I got
future.
not a nickel.
Not a nickel. That's an old
Okay, so
person's
my
comment.
question is, do you think she was exposed to COVID? Because she sure did go to New Hampshire and she was out there cheering and screaming and everything else. And it's like, if you thought you were exposed to COVID, you're going to be like next to Trump and in front of all of these innocent people, just like spewing and projectiling and like it. Do you think she just made that up so she can get an extra day out of court? Kind of like, if you forgot your homework, you're telling your parent that you got, you have fever and you can't go to school that day. Like,
I'm sure
I'm wondering if she lied about that.
I'm sure she said, "Oh, I need a me day. I get a little pedicure and maybe my hair redone or something. I just need a break. This is a lot of stress." Well, that's a question somebody asked. Did she lie to a federal judge? So when they announced that the juror had COVID or had symptoms of COVID, um, she popped up and said, "Oh yeah, I was with my family and they have COVID, and I got a little bit of a fever." Well, she didn't have a fever. She doesn't have COVID. She's sitting there at the defense table with Donald Trump, an alleged germaphobe, right there, and she doesn't have a
Hmm.
mask. And she just threw this out there. I don't know if there's anything anybody could do about it or would do about it, but it certainly seems like she lied to the federal judge in hopes of getting a little more time. They have no strategies, they have no evidence, but they're big on getting delays. And that wouldn't surprise me in the least.
Yeah, I thought, oh, how convenient. Like, I
Yeah.
just didn't believe that for a second. But then in my mind, I'm like, why would she lie about that when the juror is already out sick? You're already going to get a day or two out of court. So why do you have to add your 2 cents in on top of it as well? I thought it was such a weird, an odd thing to lie about, just say, yeah, we want to wait for this juror, give her a couple days. But why would you have to lie about having COVID and a fever and saying that your parents had COVID? It,
And you know,
I don't know. She's been hanging around Donald Trump too long. The
I
lie
just
was ridiculous.
I'm waiting for her to say, I just feel a little bloated and a little sluggish. Can we just stop the case for a little bit? Now, last I heard, that case is supposed to start up again today. Okay. And if it does
Yeah.
start up again today, there's going to be closing arguments. And then shortly after that, there'll be a decision made as to how
Mhm.
much he owes E. Jean Carroll this time around. Um, the thing is there's talk that Donald Trump wanted to testify. Do you honestly believe he's going to testify, or is he going to try to pull a stunt again from the defense table and start ranting and raving? I don't see him going under oath. I just don't see it.
I don't see him doing it because it opens the door for so much, but I don't know because the only thing that makes me think that he will do it is because he is taking these opportunities in court to, as jacked up as the logic is, he is taking moments in court as an opportunity to campaign and get his message out there.
Right.
He knows that there's people reporting on every single word that he says in court, and he wants to get that message out there. He also wants to appear like the strong man to his base, like, I don't care about this judge, I don't care about these rules, I'm running this, I'm doing what I want. He wants to project that image out there. So if he does testify, it's not to help himself in the damages, but it is to promote that image that he has of himself. So I'm thinking if he does, that's why he's going to do it. And I think he's going to be a handful on that stand.
Yeah, I think he will be. I'd be surprised if he talks at all. And if he does, I don't think the judge is going to. This judge is a different kind of judge, and he's probably not going to put up with much of the bullshit.
Mhm.
But you know, Donald Trump, you have to understand he's hurting himself in these trials that he's in, but he knows he's already lost. But
Yeah.
all his money's going to legal funds. So he's not. Is he even buying commercials or anything? I mean, this is his. This is in lieu of his commercials, his ranting commercials. Anytime he can get, you know, free press, he's going to jump all over it because he can't do what Joe Biden's done. Joe Biden's got a ton of money, and Donald Trump's getting every bit of his money drained
Mhm.
every time he has to pay a lawyer.
Why would he buy ads when the media does it for him?
Yeah, good point.
Everything he tweets out, everything he does, everything he says, they're putting it out there for him. Even going to court, they're standing out there in a will, waiting for his every word, and cameras clicking, and it's constant. He putting him in everybody's face and psyche on television everywhere. He doesn't have to buy ads. That's what he has the media for. They do that for free, just like they did in 2015.
Right. But don't you think that, you know, since 2015, he's got a lot of the benefit of the doubt. He gets this press and, you know, he has some scandal and it doesn't matter because 2 weeks later, there's two bigger scandals. So people forget about the first scandals. Um, do you,
Mhm,
don't you think that at some point
mhm,
between now and November, that's all going to turn around? Because people love to build somebody up, but they love to tear motherfuckers down. And when
mhm.
there's too much information out there, too much evidence, and too much trouble for Donald Trump, I really get the feeling that the media and all the people around him are just going to turn on him. They're going to see him as a lost cause, and they're going to want to be as far away as they can get and probably bury them. I think that day is coming.
Yeah, it's coming. I think that Donald Trump is one of those people where he's very easy to get sick of him. He's just too much all the time.
Yeah.
And even now, he's attacking like Kayleigh McEnany from Fox. I
Right.
know the last time when I talked, and she was talking about Kamala Harris, and she was warning them to watch out for her, which they should, because on Monday when she went to Wisconsin, that was crazy. Um, but now he's attacking her for just saying basic facts and just saying the truth.
Right.
So people are going to see how unhinged he is, how much he attacks people, how unsound and ungrounded it is. I do think by the end of all of this, whether he, wins the primary or not, I think he's going to have alienated so many people. And it's like he continues and continues and continues. There's not going to be anyone else left to alienate but his base, and they're not going nowhere. They like being lied to.
They like being lied to. And the thing about it is they will stick with somebody as long as they feel there's some value, whether it be fundraising or whether it be votes or such. And that's starting to slip away now. Once there is no value in
Mhm.
Donald Trump, he'll be kicked to the curb like anybody else. Now, the only thing I will say about that, I thought that would come after Joe Biden was inaugurated. At some point shortly after that, he lost the race, and he was kind of out of the mainstream at that point. I really thought that's when everybody would turn on him. God damn it, we're sitting here 3 years later,
Mhm.
and we still have a crowd of people that still support this clown, no matter what he says or no matter what he does. But that time has to come. Enough is going to fall down on top of him where
Yeah.
people will say, fuck, he's a lost cause. He can't hurt me. He can't help me anymore. So fuck him.
Yeah, I think now we're seeing a lot of what I would say soft criticisms or soft critiques of him. Like
Yeah.
when you look at Sununu, that's whatever his name is, he will tell the hardcore facts about Trump, who he is, how dangerous he is, what a threat he is, but he's not willing to say that he won't vote for him. So you're gonna have like a lot of that where they will kind of like dip their toe into the criticism of Trump, but they won't go all the way in. I think we're seeing that more and more now. We will continue to see that. Even when you look at the House, you have people saying, well, we're not really doing anything for the American people. We need to do this, we need to do that, because they can see it coming. But they're not willing to just go all the way there yet. And you could be right. Maybe, after the election, that could be the point where those soft criticisms and those soft critiques and that little bit of fear they still have of Trump, when all of that goes away and it's going to be just hardcore, he's dead weight, we need to get rid of him, he's in yesteryears. So it's coming. It's just kind of like a slow roll of a snowball.
I don't think we have to wait till the election for that turn to happen. I think it will happen once one of two things happen. Um, he either loses his shit and it's absolutely ridiculous and it's apparent that he's not of a sound mind. When that happens, people will turn on him. Or when he gets convicted. Because we know with a conviction, it changes the polls so dramatically that it's going to have to affect
Yeah.
the people around him too. So when he gets that, so we could be looking at spring, early summer when Donald Trump gets convicted. Um, I hope it's not after the election because these people are going to pay a horrible price sticking with him. Like I said before, the stink of Donald Trump,
Mhm.
literal and figuratively, will never be cleaned off of these people. They will be forever tied to Donald Trump and his shitty ass diaper.
But how much more of his mental decline and do they have to see? I mean, I don't know how much more proof they need, and it seems like every other week he's taking a cognitive test now. So
Right.
it's like maybe he
He's
has these tests like in his drawer, and every time someone says he's losing it, he pulls it out and takes it and shows it. I think, you know what, that's a missed opportunity for Nikki Haley too. Because as soon as he said that, I would have came out and challenged him to that cognitive test. And I probably would have pushed it a little further. Your wife got into this country on a genius visa. So how about you, me, and our prospective spouses on national television take an aptitude test, the ASVAB, a cognitive test, whatever you want to do. How about we do that? But she just stands up there and says, well, maybe he'll beat me, maybe he won't, but he should debate me.
Yeah.
I turned the
Well,
television off at that point.
well,
I was done.
that's the interesting thing. He refuses to be involved in the primary debates, and now when it's only him
Mhm.
and Nikki Haley, obviously they can't do it unless Donald Trump is going to be there. But let's say Donald Trump does get the nomination. At some point, he's almost going to have to debate with Joe Biden, and it won't go well. I mean, as old as Joe Biden is and slow moving, at least he has some cognitive ability. He would destroy Donald Trump. You know, Joe's too smart politically to not destroy Donald Trump. He's doing it now, you know, and saying the things he's saying. But how does Donald Trump talk his way out of getting involved in a debate? I don't think I'm too good for that anymore. I really think he doesn't trust himself on a stage with a microphone talking at length about anything. I really don't, short of a rally
Mhm.
where he's just repeating the same shit over and over again. I don't know that he trusts himself, and I'm guaranteeing you that the people around him don't trust him to be able to pull that off.
I don't see Trump wanting to debate Biden at all. I
No.
just don't see him wanting to do that. I don't know what lie or excuse that he's gonna come up with, but he's gonna come up with something. And, you know, the Republican Party is just gonna roll with it. I don't think he's gonna even think about debating Joe Biden. Regardless of what he says, he's not gonna do it. He's
If
gonna
he,
come up with an excuse, guarantee you. And it could be that maybe he uses his court cases as an excuse. You know, I can't debate him because his DOJ has me tied up here, there, and everywhere. That could be a possible excuse that he uses, but he'll come up with something.
if he refuses to do if and again, I don't think he's going to be the nominee. I think something tragic or dramatic is going to happen to him physically, mentally, or just reputationally between now and November, where he's just not going to be able to fill the position as being the nominee. But if I'm Joe Biden and Donald Trump will not debate with me, what I would do is I'd get my communications team, take video clips of everything he says about Joe Biden one by one, and let Joe Biden respond to those clips one by one. And he would destroy Donald Trump in that situation because Donald Trump would look foolish. And of course he wouldn't like that, but he can't stop it. It's all out there. Um, yeah, I think something very bad is going to happen, and it's unfortunate that that's what it has to be. You know, he falls down on stage, he just gets totally lost, he loses his shit, he freaks out, and that may come in the court cases, especially if he goes on trial in DC. That's going to be a much different situation than he's
Mhm.
experienced to this point. He's going to have to be there every day. He's going to have to listen to shit every day. He's going to have to keep his mouth shut. And that's just too much to expect out of Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think any type of like creative mind, whether you're a writer, an artist, anything, you need some kind of material or reference point.
Right.
And I think that Trump is all of the material that Joe Biden needs, even if he didn't run off of his accomplishments. He could just he just run off of Trump if he wanted to.
Yeah.
I do think it's a balance though of accomplishments and highlighting Trump's uh, bad qualities. I'm trying to think of something nice to say. I do think that good balance in there is a good winning ticket. Plus, you know, like you stated, Roe is always going to be on the forefront. I don't know why they think that women are going to forget about that or why we're not going to be enthused by
Mm.
November. It's kind of weird to think that, but
Well, as
you
somebody
know,
who,
Joe Biden just said in Virginia they're going to learn today.
yeah.
You know, we're going to show them.
Well,
So this is going to happen.
you were talking about Kamala, and you were telling us about what she's doing with colleges and the abortion thing. It's kind of nice to see that they are starting to
Mhm.
showcase Kamala, and it sounds like you're pretty well on board with what Kamala's doing. You're impressed with that. Maybe you could expand on that because I don't know that everybody knows that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I watched her because right now she's on a tour where she's primarily going to red states and she's talking to women about Roe v. Wade, having your power, making sure that we show through our votes that we're not cool with them taking away our choices. Not only that, but she's also promoting that if you want us to codify Roe, then it's not just about Joe Biden, it's also about these down ballot races because we need enough people in both the House and the Senate to make sure that it does codify. And Kayleigh McEnany, that's when she was really trying to let them know how dangerous and how much of a threat it is that she's out here promoting that and telling people it's not just Joe Biden, it's the down ballot races as well. But of course, now Trump is calling her a rhino. So that part of the messaging they're not hearing. But she did her first part of the tour on Monday, and I believe she was in Wisconsin. And as she was like, the speech was like phenomenal. It's crazy that it wasn't covered. It was really, really, really good. But one of the things that was happening when she was talking is there was like people in the audience that were like upset. They were angry. They were like shouting things like, we're not going to let them forget. We're going to show them. And they were like, you know how you have those hecklers in the background that's like throwing out words? Like those people in that audience, they were fired up. It was
Right.
like a cool thing to see, but I'm just kind of not really used to like her. And but the good thing about her is she didn't like feed into it. They were just like angry and screaming and, saying we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that. But she just kept going with the speech. And I thought that was really good on her part, was to just keep going. But they were really angry at the Republican Party and Trump. That audience, and this is in Wisconsin,
Yeah.
they were not, I don't know why that wasn't covered, but it was a pretty good speech and the people were fired up.
Well,
They were fired up, absolutely.
the one thing I'm noticing about her, though, as much as it wasn't covered fully, she is showing up in the media more. Her speeches, she's getting credit for the
Yeah.
speeches and the responses
Mhm.
she's getting, and that's what she needs. I've always said they needed to somehow showcase her because of the age of Joe Biden. I get the sense with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they didn't want to start doing this too
Mhm.
early, so they waited till after the first of the year. And now, henceforth to November, they're going to hit it fucking hard. I know that, I don't know if you heard this, Joe Biden's got his State of the Union coming up in March.
Mhm.
You know, Mike
Yeah.
Johnson tried to put it off as long as he could. But from what I understand, Joe Biden, you know how they always bring people to the State of the Union? He's bringing in women that needed abortions but live in states where it's illegal. That's going to be pretty powerful and it's going to
Yeah.
get a lot of attention. And it's a smart move by Joe Biden.
Yes, and these women are also getting ads and for the election. In addition to that, these women are also doing some dates with Kamala where they're coming on stage and they're telling their story and they're saying their experiences as well. So, they're both doing it on both ends. Kamala more into the community, more hands-on with it. And then Biden, bringing these women more national and bringing more attention to them that way. I think it's a great combination actually. And then for him, for Biden, even though his age, to showcase that if something did happen to him, this is the woman that we have. She is pro-choice. This isn't, whoever it is that Trump is going to choose, whether it's a woman or not, who it's pretty much maybe like the female version of Trump. This is going to be someone who is competent, someone we know where she stands on these issues, and we know she's going to fight for us. So, regardless of who Trump picks for his VP, we're not going to get that person. So, he's 77, he's already in a mental decline. So, who do we look up to as like the backup for Trump? And whoever that backup person is not going to be good. And that's just going to be another strike against him, whereas it's going to be a plus for Joe Biden.
You know, you're someone who's deeply involved in the whole abortion issue. You're doing a lot of things with bringing women from states where it's illegal. So you know more about this, and you happen to be a woman. Am I far off base
Mhm.
in saying that if we wiped everything off the board and nothing but Roe v. Wade, that's enough for Republicans to, and anybody who supports overturning Roe v. Wade, that's enough to lose them elections and get wiped off the stage. I think, people always say, well, when we did it in 2022, women will just forget about it. I always say, well, then you ain't fucking married, because I've been married 40 years and I'm still dealing with shit I did in the 80s. Okay. So, but I think that is far and away the strongest issue. And it sounds like Biden and Kamala are focusing in on that. I think that's a brilliant idea. I think that is a winner, and
Mhm.
75% of the people support Roe v. Wade. So it's a no-brainer. Shove that down their throat and kick their ass in
Yeah.
2024.
Yeah, I think that with the overturning of Roe, the Republican Party were trying to be strategic and pick out, the best time to overturn it. What they failed to see is it was never going to be a good time to
No,
overturn it. You know, I can't remember his name, but I did see him on Fox the other day, and he's a Republican hardcore. I can't remember his name, but he said part of the issue was we told people that this is a states' right issue. And now we put it back on the states, but now you have states ready to prosecute doctors, children, rape victims, victims of incest. They're ready to throw them in prison under the death penalty.
right,
And he said that is not what we promised them, that's not what we gave them, but that's what we're doing. And they know it, they see it, they realize it. But I almost feel like for Republicans now, it's the point where like, oh, we can't turn back now. We
right.
can't admit that we were wrong about that. And it's so, for me, it's so ironic that, and then he even said at one point, like, most people in this country, they just accepted the fact that abortion was legal. If you wanted to have one, you could. If you didn't want to, just don't have one. Um, and I think that's it's such a good way of saying it. People are trying to say, oh, we got to compromise. We got to figure out a way to talk about this. Well, we already had Roe v. Wade. It was on the books. Everybody was cool with that. So you came and you made a mess, and now you want to say, "Oh my gosh, we gotta clean this up." No, you have to clean that up. You made that mess, and you have to pay the consequences for the mess that you made. It's not like it was something that was up in the air that people was constantly debating all the time. The only people that had an issue and was debating that all the time was evangelical and people in those circles. Everybody else was cool. So you came and you just uprooted everything, and now you're
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to deal with that. You caused the chaos. I, I don't understand why they don't see that they did it.
It's like,
And
it's
now
like,
it's like, oh my gosh, we got to figure something out. You should have had that plan in place before you did it. It's so weird to me that they didn't think this thing through. Like women would just be cool with you taking our rights away. Like
right.
we would just be like, oh, okay, yeah, we're not Stepford wives, we're women.
It's
Like
like,
we was not going to ever be okay with that.
it's
It's
like a
so weird
dude.
that they think that way.
It's like a douchebag in a bar walks up and punches somebody in the mouth and then says, let's try to talk about this. You already started the fight, motherfucker. We're winding down, and I
Right.
just want to bring something up. I get people coming to me all the time saying, and that Roe v. Wade ties into this because I made the comparison. People will say to me, all the young people are mad at Joe Biden. They're not going to vote for him because of his stance with Israel and Gaza. And my answer to that is that sounds like Republican messaging because it's a weak argument. And they'll say, what do you mean? They're upset about that. And I said,
Yeah.
let me ask you something. If you've got millennials and Gen Zs, do you think they're more upset about Gaza or more upset about Roe v. Wade? That should be a no brainer. They're going to want to take care of the things that affect them directly. To think that the millennials and Gen Zs are even really connected to what's going on in the Gaza Strip. I just don't think that's possible. It sounds like the Republicans said, oh, this makes Joe Biden look bad. Let's put it out there like it's real. And it's not. But I get people all the time saying, oh my God, the millennials, the Gen Zs, they're going to vote against Joe Biden because of Gaza and the Israel. I just think that's absolute bullshit. I mean, if you've got two issues you've got to worry about,
Um,
the Roe v. Wade one's going to be more important to young people.
yeah, because you always take care of home first.
Yeah.
But there's two things that they're missing in that when it comes to social media, TikTok, wherever they're getting that information from, they show the most extreme
Right.
on that end of the spectrum. They don't show just a majority of how young people feel or millennials feel or anything like that. They show the most extreme, the ones who's like, oh my gosh, Biden is going to lose my vote. They show that. They don't show the full picture. And then also, Netanyahu, if I'm saying his name right,
Yeah.
he recently came out and he said something to the effect of, like, I've already told, Biden or whoever that we were not going to do a two-party or two-state solution. And so immediately, like my daughter, her friends, other young people, they everywhere was like, wait a minute. So was Biden trying to push this behind the scenes and he wasn't really saying anything? So that has them thinking that the things that they see when Biden does, even when he gets like little progress here and there, it showed them that he is working behind the scenes to get this taken care of. And a lot of them instantly was saying there's things that he's doing that we don't know about. He's not maybe not talking about it in the open because he doesn't want to ruin any deal or progress. But when Bibi came out and said that, it completely changed the way a lot of them were thinking and talking about that particular topic.
Well, you have a young daughter, 24. Um,
Hmm.
are she and her friends actually talking about this whole Israeli thing like it's important to them? I'm not saying it shouldn't be. I'm just saying that I know younger people. I've got kids, I've got grandkids. I just don't see them. I don't see how that is foremost in their mind when it comes to voting for president. I just don't see it.
They talk about it when they have to, but it's not like a topic of conversation. From the way that they talk about it is this has always happened, it's always gone on, except
Mhm.
for now we have technology so we can see it and it's in our faces.
Right.
Like, it's not anything new, it's just that it's our first time being exposed to it. So it's not something that they have to ignore, but it just kind of seems like it's not like they don't care, but there's other things that's going on here that takes precedence of what's going on there. And the sentiment that I'm getting is we need to get through this election before we can worry about other people. Kind of
Right.
like that's where their mind is. And now they're just more focusing on like voting and Trump and all this other kind of stuff that he has going on. He's more of a distraction to them, and his threat to us is more of a distraction than what's going on with Hamas and Israel.
Well, and when you look at presidential elections, the thing that is the most important, seemingly in every election, is the economy, because that affects them. And of course, the
Yeah,
economy is doing pretty well. I just don't understand how
yeah.
anybody would overlook the economy when it's going well, overlook overturning Roe v. Wade because they're upset about Israel. I've been young too. That wouldn't have been my
Mhm.
first thought. But I keep getting Democrats coming to me upset, not sleeping, not eating because they're afraid the young people are going to vote against Joe Biden. And I always say to them, so what you're saying is they're mad at Joe Biden about Israel. So they're going to vote for terrorists. They're going to vote for treasonists, somebody who's trying to overthrow our government, undermine democracy, and take away women's rights. That's the play. You're mad at Joe because of Israel, so you're going to vote for this other guy. That makes no fucking sense.
No. And the one thing that they were just upset about, like, I'm not into awards and stuff, was the woman who played Barbie in the movie.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, herself and the director, they were not nominated for the Oscar or whatever it was. Like, there was this whole uproar about that. So they do worry about just here, the policies that's being put through by Trump and Republicans, how it's just affecting everything and everyone, in particular women, because this happened to be two women that they targeted. They
Right.
target Taylor Swift, they target this woman and that woman. In Florida, they just banned Bill O'Reilly's book, which I ain't mad about that. But they banned Beyonce's autobiography, Lady Gaga's autobiography, Oprah Winfrey's autobiography. Like they talk about stuff like that because it's it's important here at home. So that feels like more of a direct threat to them than Hamas and Gaza. It's not that they don't care about it. It's just that they have more pressing issues here that they
Absolutely.
have to deal with. Those things they really do care about. The book ban and Roe v. Wade, them targeting the trans community, the gay community. They are so concerned about that, and they're so scared. And a lot of them, they do still think about Project 2025, and they talk about that a lot as well. So it's not that they don't care. It's just that, as of right now at home, what's the biggest threat? And that's what they're addressing.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to wrap things up here, but I need to make a confession before we wrap things up. And the confession is this, is that one time my wife and I were sitting around, we didn't have anything to do. We were going to watch something on TV. And I know this is going to freak a lot of people out, but I
Mhm.
actually watched the Barbie movie. And I didn't want to watch the Barbie movie. It was better than I thought it might be, but I didn't think it was that great. I didn't think it was a big deal. Ryan Gosling's cool. Who's the lady? I like her a lot. Was it Margot or something? But I like her too. But
I didn't
uh,
watch the Barbie movie.
you didn't watch the Barbie movie? Jesus Christ! I'm
I
I'm
tried to watch it with my niece and I fell asleep.
I'm going to be out looking for a new pink Jeep tomorrow, so that should be interesting. It wasn't that good a movie. It was
Okay, wait.
okay.
I have to tell you my Tim Scott story, right?
Okay, go ahead.
I got to tell you this because I know you're gonna laugh at it. So my niece was over here, and we used the bread maker to make dough. We make pizzas, and she was over here. We had our pizzas. My niece and I are the only two people who like milk duds. Like everybody else in my family, they don't like it, but we do. So we're sitting on the sofa after we eat our pizza, and we're sharing some milk duds. And she was on her tablet, and I was watching Tim Scott endorsed Trump. That's before last night. This is
Right.
like the first time he endorsed them, right? And she's like looking at the television and she's like, Titi, who is that guy? And I said, oh, his name is Tim Scott. He wants to be president one day. And she's like, oh, he just looks so weird. And then I try to be the good person, like, we don't talk about people's appearance. Nobody can help how they look, whatever. And then she's like, it's just that. And I'm like, it's just that what? She holds the milk dud up. She says, his head looks like a milk dud. So my daughter takes the milk dud and she bites it and she says, now his head looks like a milk
Wow. She's
dud.
not wrong, but I will tell you this. Milk duds are solid. I like milk duds. I don't care what anybody says. They're fucking good. Chocolate and caramel, what better combination could you possibly have? Anyway, I appreciate you coming on, Old
Thank
Soul, as
you.
always. We didn't know what really we were going to talk about. And I said, it always works otherwise. So let's just do it. And of course it did. And I appreciate you coming on. I'm looking forward to having you come on next week. And I think we might have some crazy shit happening between now and then. So get ready.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready.
All right. That sounds good. All right, Old Soul, thank you very much. Those of you listening, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen. Hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.